What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to be doing my full review of the EMPEDC Nymble X. Let's get into it. So what we're going to do is some size comparisons first to give you an idea how big or small the knife is. Then we're going to jump into my thoughts and impressions and some of the differences between version 1 and version 2 that you see here on the table. Let's kick it off with size comparisons. First up, we're going to bring out the Devo Knives Pony Stout, which is a sub 3-inch knife, and then we're going to do it against the CJRB Echo. And as you can see, this is definitely more of a full-size knife. It's coming in larger than both on the table right here in front of you. We're going to do one more size comparison. That is going to be against the Spyderco Sage 5, which is a 3-inch knife. And we'll bring out a full-size comparison. That is going to be the Spyderco Shaman, which is going to be a little bit bigger than the Nymble X version 2. All right, let me do a little profile comparison just in case you're curious. This is actually still a very thin knife. If you're familiar with the version 1, that has not changed from this particular model. And as you can see here, it is actually, wow, I think it's just a touch bigger, but I'm going to actually call that even. And then we'll do against the CJRB Echo, which is going to be like a medium EDC, and it's going to be just a skosh thicker than that. And the last thing that I like to do for this particular segment, so you have an idea of how it's going to carry in the pocket, is we're going to check the weight on this. Coming in at just over 4.5 ounces, not bad at all. I'm going to bring my microphone down and over just a little bit more so I can get it nice and close to me. I feel like lately here I've had to do some gains on the microphone to get it caught up. So let's go through thoughts and impressions on this knife, and we're going to do that by starting off with some of the differences. One of the differences that you're going to notice on this one here, instead of it being a frag pattern, it has more of that diagonal cut that you see here on the Relative and the Ronin if you pay attention to EMPEDC models. The other thing that's going to be different on this one is they took a little bit more out of the choil here, giving a little bit more room for the finger, but also reducing the separation between the two fingers in hand. And that actually does make for a noticeable improvement on this knife. It is definitely a good thing, and I appreciate the fact that they did that. I don't know if it was through feedback. I know that on mine, it still felt comfortable, but you could really feel the separation between the two fingers, and that has been reduced here. Another difference on this one that I noticed is that this one here has a hollow ground blade instead of a flat ground blade. So it does feel very thin, and it cut through the material that I tested on very nicely. And grabbing a piece of paper here, I'm gonna have to bring some more from downstairs up here. The edge on the factory blade, didn't realize I had grabbed two, is really well done. And this has been passed around, so you're gonna see a little bit of catch on here, but I assume that is because it has been tested, and even myself cutting through materials as well. So you see it does have a little bit of blemish right here on the blade where that paper is getting caught up. So I think let's drop on camera. Let's do a quick, I keep the field sharp up here because this is a really nice way, we can get that paper out of there, to be able to do some quick strops on the blade's edge just to see how quickly it'll come back. I believe this is M390. It might be 20 CV. My editor will have to let us know which one it is, but we'll just do a few on the blade. So let's see here. How's it feeling? So it's starting to come back. I think with a little bit more, it would definitely come back. For sure, it is starting to come back. So that's a good sign though. I feel like that just indicates that the heat treat that they did on this knife is really good. All right, so The edge has probably been tested a lot. I think I'm almost last in line out of the pass around for this particular one, so it does kind of make sense that it needed a stropping. And I think just a few more passes on there would bring this right back, which is a nice sign. It does feel, again, very thin behind the edge. It went through the cardboard with no issue whatsoever. My complaint about lock bar access is the same as it was on the version 1. It's just very tight to get through. And because they start the chamfering much earlier on here than they do on something like the Relative, it feels a little bit thinner, even if it is not thinner in hand. So I would like for version 2 to have gone out a little bit further and maybe probably start the chamfering about here on the knife. I think that would have been a huge gain. I think it would have been a little bit more hand filling and it would have felt a little bit better. That complaint about the access to the lock bar is negligible if you come in from the side. It's no issue whatsoever. Or if you like to disengage like so, European style, not bad at all. Action on here feels really smooth. I don't know how much it was carried or handled before it got to me. It was a little stiff when it got here. And I swear, since I've had it and carried it for a couple days, the action has really smoothed out on this one. I really like this flipper tab. The jimping on here works well. It's great for light switch. I love the opening hole. The deployment and the detent on there is very nice, solidly done. Same for the thumb. It feels a little bit light on the thumb, but again, that's probably because thumb strength is going to be a little bit stronger than doing that reverse flick. So it's probably muscle in hand versus anything to do with that detent. And then the front flipper works fine. You have to remember to come in right at the middle, because if you come in at the top, it feels like it's going to start to kind of slip off a little bit. They could have done a little bit more aggressive jimping or gone up and over with the jimping, but honestly, if you just hit it right here, it's going to flip just fine. No issues whatsoever. It has remained centered since I've had it. I also really like the blue, purple, blurple, whatever you want to call it, ano job, and I don't know how well that's going to come through, but it looks really good in person. I like it a lot. This here, it looks like all of it has like a satin polish to it, but it looks a little bit less blurple on the back spacer than it does anywhere else. And I don't know if that's because when they hit the edge of everything, they couldn't get this flat surface to kind of look quite like that, but it's more showing at the angle that you can see some of the purple start to come out on the blue. Really nicely done, very tasteful. I also like this polished stone washing on here. It does show a little bit of the fingerprints and a little bit of the oil and grease, but the finish on it overall looks really, really nice. So I like the updates to version 2. I would like to see a little less or a little later chamfering, so stretching the edges out here a little bit further to make it feel a little bit thicker and then coming down with the sharper edges. Alternative recommendations for the same price, you can get the EMPEDC Relative. This one being done by Best Tech. I feel like the hollow grind is on here is better. I like the belt satin finish a little bit better. And then again, I think they carried it out just a little bit further than you see here on the Nymble X, and I think that makes the difference on how it feels in hand. So you see you have a lot more here in this radius in the middle and a lot less here on the Relative, and then the same thing here. It's really thick and noticeable up on the top of the Nymble X version 2, sorry, and the Relative. So the Relative feels better in hand. I also like the way that the choil's done on here. There's no gap for space whatsoever, so it feels like you kind of naturally are sitting in a good position. Fingers are in the right spot on this one, and I just like the jimping on this. It's more aggressive. It goes out further. I would say the action is probably about a tie. It feels a little bit smoother on the Nymble X, but I think that's too because of the thickness in hand with the scales and how that feels. You just don't feel the blade moving, but it still moves as smoothly, very glassy like. And then that jimping here being more aggressive makes it a little bit more confident for the front flipper, and it's just a little bit of a cleaner line when you don't have that knockout on the back here for that flipper tab. So to me, that just looks like a little bit of a cleaner element. I would say that the sizes, the Nymble X is going to be a little bit longer, it looks like. Yeah, so when you sit here, Nymble X just a skosh longer on the tail end. I know you can't really see it from there, but lining up here, And coming here, this is kind of what you see hanging over when you line up from the front. So you can see just a little bit longer overlapping, whereas here they look like they're flush. And then here you can kind of see the overlap. Height, about the same height. Yep, I mean, they're almost identical in height and how they come across. And then thickness, here you can see the relative just has a touch more thickness on it and a little less radiusing here on the edges. And I really like that a lot. I would say if you love the shape and the size of the Nymble X and you like something that is a little bit thinner in your hands, go with that Nymble X. Otherwise, I'm recommending the relative. Let me know what you think about this one down in the comments though. Do you have version 1? Do you have version 2? Did you have both? Did you notice the difference between the two? What are you liking about this one? And what alternative recommendations do you have for the EMPEDC Nymble X version 2? Thanks and shout out to everyone out there that leaves the comments, that's liked and subscribed. I love you guys for the support. I appreciate all the support. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.